Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming here today and bearing the sun and the heat with us. It's a beautiful day, but if you're standing outside in the middle of the sun, it gets a little warm real quick, especially if you're wearing a jacket. Just throwing that out there. Well, but welcome, and I appreciate you all taking time out of your busy day and bringing your families out here and supporting the veterans that never came home. This day is not about car sales and mattress sales and hanging out with your family. It is about hanging out with family, but it's not about hanging out with family. It's about remembering and honoring those of our brothers and sisters that never came home. We can gather once a year, take an hour out of your day just to think about them or remember them. So if you would, please stand up. We'll have the invocation, posting of the colors, and the pledge.
Please join me in prayer. Gracious and loving God, we thank you for this day. We are here on this Memorial Day, a day of remembrance, to remember those who have given the ultimate sacrifice to protect our freedoms. And God, we ask that you be with the widows and the children of those who did not come home. Father, we ask these things in your great name. Amen.
Please remain standing.
Color guard, attention. Color guard, forward march. Color guard, halt. Color guard, post the color. Gentlemen, will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And if you could remain standing, I will have Miss Nikita Place come up from Sachse High School to sing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars bear the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Mr. Mayor, please be seated.
Me?
You too.
Whereas originally known as Decoration Day, Memorial Day was meant to honor the Union and the Confederate soldiers who died during the American Civil War. And whereas in the 1900s, it had become a day to celebrate all American soldiers who died while serving the military. Whereas in 1971, Congress officially established Memorial Day as an official national holiday, being the last Monday in May. Whereas the flag is supposed to be flown at half-mast until noon and then raised to full-mast until sunset on Memorial Day. Whereas we reflect on this day as a day of remembrance for all the brave men and women who have died in service for our country. Whereas the tradition of wearing red poppies on Memorial Day originated from John McCrae's 1915 poem, In Flanders Fields. And whereas in the year 2000, Congress passed the National Monument of Remembrance Act, which requires all Americans to stop and give a moment of silence to remember and honor those who died while serving at 3 p.m. Whereas the freedoms and liberties we are blessed to enjoy are a direct result of the courage, devotion, and sacrifice of the members of our armed forces. I therefore, Mike Felix, Mayor of the City of Sachse, do hereby proclaim May 28, 2018 in observance of Memorial Day as a day of remembrance for all who have and are serving in the defense of our nation.
So our guest speaker today is Mr. Bob Sewell. If you don't know Bob, he's a Sachse local. He's been involved in assisting setting up this event for years, the Veterans Day event with the Sachse Historical Society. So I invited him to kind of give a little bit about his story and his take on Memorial Day. Please welcome Mr. Sewell.
Thank you, Brett. My name is Robert Sewell, also known as Bob. I'm a Master Sergeant in the United States Air Force, retired. I would like to thank the City of Sachse, in particular Mayor Felix and Councilman Franks, for supporting this ceremony and our scouts for taking care of our flags today. I served 20 years, first as a radar technician for 16 years, and then 4 years in telephone installation and repair. My first year after basic military training was cushy duty. I went to school 6 hours a day. After that, there would be 8 more assignments, including 2 remotes, 1 in Okinawa, 1 in Alaska. In 1969, I met my wife in Aiken, South Carolina. We were married in 1970. That was the beginning of her 47-year enlistment. We are now working on 48. The last assignment I had was at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio. It was 3.5 years, longest I'd been any place in my adult life. That was where I retired. 3 years later, my son enlisted. He would serve 22 years. His first name is Master Sergeant, just like mine. Master Sergeant Robert M. Sewell, Jr., retired, United States Air Force. After retirement, I worked for telecommunications industry. I went from a startup to 3 Fortune 500 companies through mergers and buyouts. I always managed to stay on board with the winning company and would spend 25 years before retiring in 2009. Since then, I have worked with Councilman Franks to help put on this ceremony, and I joined the Sachse Historical Society to do volunteer work there. The Society puts on a Veterans Day ceremony, and we are having a lot of success with that. You can also see me presenting a special coin each year at the Veterans Day ceremony. I would like to recognize that there is 3 generations here in my family today. Myself, my daughter Kathy, and my grandson Justin. I was hoping that Justin would bring another generation, his 2 sons. But for that said, Kathy has a coin in her pocket. That is my dad's burial flag coin. So there's 4 generations here, I feel, today. I just wanted to make it a little extra special since they were here. Enough about me. Today I would like to talk about home and the perception that servicemen and women kind of have about home. First, there is the home where we grew up, went to school, had our first date, joined the Scouts, bought our first car, broke our first bones. In my day, you had to register for the draft on your 18th birthday. After graduation, your time was limited. You waited for your good old Uncle Sam to send you an invite, or you enlisted. Your first stop, either way, would be basic military training. And that was going through the HE double hockey sticks type thing. It was bad news. After that, it was on to some form of school to teach you your trade that you would do in the military. After that, it was on to your first duty assignment somewhere in the world. Once you get to basic training, home becomes back home. Every time you refer to home, you're always saying back home. Back home. I had a 54. I had 2 girlfriends. But in all reference to home, it became back home. After your schooling, you get your orders for your first duty assignment. About this point, you might marry your sweetheart from back home or someone from the local area around your duty assignment. At this time, you become a rich person. You have 2 homes. You have back home and you have your spouse's home. You will also establish your own place, which you will call home. You just got richer. You now have 3 homes. Depending on your length of service and the wind, you will make more places home at each assignment. This will continue even after you depart the service, as you will probably change jobs or job locations a few times. While in the service, you will take leave and go back home or to your spouse's home. And at the end of your leave, you will tell everyone that you need to return home. You really get a lot of homes. This is the same in civilian life. The difference is that in civilian life, all the choices are your own. In the service, you are directed to your duty assignments. Also, there is the prospect of being ordered to war. We accept that, but pray the call never comes. Now back to the reason we are gathered here today. I would like to read something I came across some years ago. It explains the purpose of the burial flag ceremony at the grave of a veteran when they're buried. It reads as follows: for service to a grateful nation, once the U.S. flag is lifted from the casket, it is tilted down in the front of the casket to block the view. The flag is then held up for everyone to see, and taps is then played softly in the distance. This is referred to as presenting the colors. Tradition holds that at this time the fighting spirit of the veteran enters the flag. Once the flag is folded, both the flag and the veteran are formally retired forever. This is a verse that is on the back of that coin that Kathy has in her purse. Now for the sad facts of the war to the United States. Total deaths, 651,031. Total missing, 82,467 for all wars. Once again, let's thank our departed veterans for their service, dedication, and sacrifice. And as the bodies of our missing in action veterans are located, identified, and returned to their families, please wish them a welcome back home. Thank you.
once again, thanks for bearing the heat. Even in the shade, it was excitably comfortable over there. We'll now bring Jim Mathis up. He will bring the wreath up to lay next to our monument here. As much as I'm trying to get out of the sun, I'm trying to keep us on proper time as well. Mr. Sewell gave you some war stats at the very end. However, there's more to that story. There are 1.1 million service members that never came home, whether it be wartime or peacetime, they never came home. So that's how we honor those folks. Mr. Larry Quave is our bugler. I always end the ceremony with the flag lowering and raising to full staff and the bugler. But I want to introduce Mr. Quave and let him tell a little bit about himself before we do that.
Thank you, sir. Now, this isn't about me, not that much anyhow, just a little bit. I was hoping we'd have a few more Boy Scouts here today. So you Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts who are here, you got to help me out and pass the word to your fellow Scouts and every other Scout you meet. 60 years ago, I was 11 years old. Yeah. I was a Boy Scout at that time. Just finished Cub Scouts and joined Boy Scouts. I lived 1 mile away from Ellison Field Naval Air Station. And pretty early in my young years, I noticed that the Navy did something quite interesting. Every morning, 0600, reveille. 8 o'clock. To the colors. In the afternoon at sunset, dun 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 dun. Retreat. They lowered the colors. 5 minutes till 10 p.m. Dun 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 dun. Tattoo. Lights out. 10 p.m. straight up. The 24 notes I'm going to play in just a few moments. Taps. I made it a point, I love that brass music. And all the time that I was home, when I wasn't at school, of course, I'd make it a point to be in the yard, because I was only a mile away from the Naval Air Station, and if the wind was blowing right, I could hear quite clearly those bugle calls. I love listening to those bugle calls. And I went out, back of Boys Life magazine, Junior Sales Club of America. You could sell some all-occasion cards and earn for yourself some prizes. The first prize I earned was a genuine brass bugle, because I wanted to learn how to play a bugle. My bugle came in the mail a few days later, and I got it out of the box, and I'm all ready to play. And I did just this. I did just what I'm going to do now. I went. This is going to be a little more difficult than I thought. All right, over the next many months, I taught myself how to play the bugle. I learned all the bugle calls. Bugling merit badge was the first merit badge I earned as a Boy Scout. I played bugle calls on every Scout camp I went on. Years later, when I became a Marine, I was the company bugler for my training class. Years later, after I got out of the Marines, I learned about an organization called Bugles Across America that a former Marine named Tom Day had just started. This was about 12 years ago. And this was right after Congress had passed a law or a decree or whatever it is that says all veterans are entitled to the playing of taps and a flagpole. Well, the military musicians that we have today, there's just not that many who can play taps for all of the veterans who are dying. And so Tom Day, not liking the idea of pressing a button and having a CD player play taps, started this volunteer organization called Bugles Across America, where anybody who could play a brass instrument, and that includes Boy Scouts, yes it does, who could play taps, would volunteer. Your name would go in a local database, like the Dallas area, for example. We've got about 95 people who have signed up. Yes, women too, who have signed up to be volunteers to play taps. And so anybody who has cause or need of a bugler to play taps, all they have to do is go online to Bugles Across America, put in a request, take about a minute, where, when, how, what, who, when, hit the send button, and that'll send a broadcast message to all the buglers in the Dallas area. Somebody will get it, well, everybody will get it. And everybody will look at it, and everybody will decide, yeah, can I make that one? Can I do that one? Am I off that day? Do I have the time? We've never missed, we call it a mission. We've never missed a mission. But you know what? Most of the buglers nowadays are old folks like me. Really. They're old buglers. They're old Boy Scouts, or they were old guys who once were Boy Scouts. Young men, we need your help. If you're in the band, if you can play an instrument, trumpet, and can learn to play taps, pass the word, learn to play taps, go online, sign up to be a bugler, volunteer bugler for Bugles Across America, and help us out. Because without your help of you young men, one day, it's going to be my turn to go out to the DFW National Cemetery, in the back of the little black wagon. And unless I have you and your help, there won't be anybody to play taps for me. I need your help. I'd like to have you join Bugles Across America, those of you who can. Thank you very much.
I just looked at my phone to see what time it was, because we're supposed to lower and raise the flags at noon, and the time didn't come up. It said melting. So thank you again. So as we get ready to conclude the ceremony, I want to end a couple of words. One is to give thanks to the gentleman that started this presentation and ceremony. Dave Sanford, who's no longer with us, started this. He went to go visit family in the hospital one year and said, hey, I need you to do this. And I said, okay. He goes, I just can't be there. I said, okay. Well, he never came back home. And I just want to recognize him and I said Mr. General Charles Eichelberger, who helped him start this. So those two guys I always try to remember every year that started this remembrance and this ceremony in Sachse, and we give thanks to them for setting this up. And I didn't know I was going to have to take over full time, but that's okay. I appreciate the opportunity. And as ending notes, there's a gentleman by the name of Alejandro Villanueva. And I know it's Cowboys country, but stay with me. He's a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was also a West Point graduate, played West Point football. And he was the center of controversy last year when some of the players decided they weren't going to stand or even come out of the locker room for the national anthem. His team agreed that they were going to stay in the tunnel in the locker room and not come out for the national anthem under protest. And depending on which story and who you ask, he either was caught on the field and didn't come back in the tunnel in time for warm-up, or he just said, no, I can't do that. And he stood at the entrance of the tunnel and stood with his heart over his hand. And there was a lot of controversy that whether he was with the team or whether he was against the protest or whatever it was, that wasn't important. He was also He was also a member of the 10th Mountain Division as an officer, and he was in Afghanistan, and he lost guys that were sitting right next to him. So whatever story you want to believe, or whatever version of that you want to hear on the television, I'll leave that up to you. But Sports Center did a great presentation about what Memorial Day meant to him. And if you get an opportunity, YouTube, internet, whatever, you bring that up. It's a pretty good story. I just wanted to take an opportunity to kind of share that story, get everybody in place. Mr. Quave, thank you. Thank you very much for attending our ceremony today. That concludes our ceremony.
Because